Wednesday. It's Brad here at Wild Boys Brewery. I'm just going to do a quick update this week. I wanted to review one of my home brews. Had posted the mixed berry wild ale that I did. And this beer was basically a Heinz 57 beer, would be the best way to put it. I had a bunch of different beers that I had little bits and pieces left of that were kegged, and I wasn't getting through them, and I needed to empty the kegs out to make room for some new batches of beer that I had that were coming in that I wanted to drink. The bulk of this beer is a 3 gallons of a and even that beer, even the 3 gallons, it's a mixture of some other beers. It's about, I think, 2 gallons of debittered black stout. It was a Terminator Stout clone recipe that was in Brew Your Own magazine. It's sometime last year or something like that, I think, maybe even a year and a half ago. I did kind of a Rubaeus type beer that was a clean raspberry blonde beer, and I drank all of that except for like 1 gallon, and it was just kind of lingering around. It was a great beer, but it's kind of one of those beers I'm only going to drink a couple times a week. So it got down to where there was about 1 gallon left, and I just went ahead and I put that. I digressed from them. I'm getting ahead of myself. The 3 gallons of the debittered black sour ale was 2.5 gallons of the debittered black stout and something else. I can't even remember what it was. Didn't write it down. And what I did was I took dregs from Wicked Weed Oblivion and Crooked Stave St. Bretta Wild Beer and built those up, and then pitched that 3 gallons into a 3-gallon carboy with those dregs, and it sit for 13 months and just did its thing. I don't think that any lacto or pedio that may have been in the Wicked Weed beer, I think they just do lacto. The debittered black stout was still, I think, of a high enough IBU that it kind of inhibited the lactobacillus in it, but the Brett still did its thing. And so we had 2 different types of Brett or Brett cultures, whatever those guys are using. Crooked Stave and Wicked Weed's house culture, I don't know what they are. And then I racked that over on top of the 1 gallon of raspberry blonde, and then 1 gallon of basically some leftover wort that I had from another blonde beer that I done, and I racked it over onto some fruit and just let it sit for a couple months, and then tried it, and it was just really super bland. It was just kind of like drinking flavored fruit water or something. It was just barely even, you could have called it a beer. And so I was kind of hoping that would have turned out better, but it didn't, so it wound up going into this. And so that's what made the 5 gallons of the base beer for this. And then I racked that on top of 3 12-ounce bags of blackberries. These are frozen blackberries. 2 12-ounce bags of raspberry, and then 1 12-ounce bag of mixed berries, which are dark sweet cherries, black and blueberries, and raspberries. I tossed in a medium toast French oak spiral, and then it set from, after the 3 gallons were already soured from the bread and whatever lacto that had done its thing, and it set from 11, 12, 15 to 1, 12, 16, so it was like 2 months and 2 weeks or something. It finished out at 10:04. I kegged it on 3/1/2016. It had I think the pH got down to like a 4.2 or something like that. Brett will drop your pH some depending on which strain it is, so that's why I think that the IBUs were still high enough from the beers that I put in it that it kind of inhibited the lacto, because I was expecting it to have a lower pH than that. So anyway, that's the details about that beer. This is what it looks like. Surprisingly, it has awesome glass lacing for a sour beer, because most of these sour beers do not have good glass lacing. The Brett winds up breaking the body down to the point where you don't really see a whole lot of glass lacing on most of these beers. I'm not going to say it's not on any of them. And then also, this is a keg carb beer. It is not natural. I carved it up in the keg, and as you can see, it's sitting at serving pressure on my kegs are 12 psi. So it's carved up to like 2.2 or something like that. The beer is really nice. You get a lot of fruit on it from the fruit that I put in it, and plus the fruit that was made up the beer, because it had like 2 of the beers that went in it were already fruited beers. On the nose, you definitely get the Brett Funk. It is a mild Brett Funk. It is not like Barnyard, Wet Hay, Band-Aid, any of that. It's more of a, I think it's got some Brett Lacto or Lambic in it, because that comes across as kind of like cherry pie. Because I did a secondary with some Brett different strains a while back, and the taste on this follows along with that Brett Lambic type flavor, the cherry pie. It's kind of acidic. You definitely get, it is a kind of a real nice Brett Funk, and I'm sure some of that is also from the St. Bretta beer that I use from Crooked Stave, because their beers are all of them that I've had. And also shout out to Colorado fly fisherman Travis. He's sent me, I can get a few of them out here, but he sent me some stuff I couldn't get. The very first one I ever had, I think, was the culture that went into this. I can't remember for sure if that's something he sent me or I bought. Most of them they send out here as Saisons, and that was like the only Brett beer that wasn't a Saison that I tried. Anyway, let's get into the nose on it a little more. Definitely getting that cherry, a lot of berry, fruit flavor. It's got a kind of an acidic nose on it. Not off-putting, but it is kind of, it smells more acidic than the pH reading indicated. Appearance on this beer, it's purple. Looking at it from this big thick glass, it looks more of a dark red color, or black maybe, but it is definitely purple. Since the base of this beer is mostly a stout, it's not surprising it looks so dark. If you get it up to the light, you can kind of see the head on it is got a slight kind of a pink hue to it. Keeping its head. Let's get into it. Cheers. It is not very sour. It's got a nice tartness to it. And I kind of think that part of the tartness from it came from the fruit that was put in the beer when it was made, from the different ones that I used, and from fruiting the beer with what I told you before. It doesn't have a really super sharp pucker factor in the back of your throat. It's actually very drinkable. It's got a nice Brett character to it. It kind of has that real mild Brett Lambicus type flavor to it, the cherry, and I'm sure most of that's probably coming from the fruit I put in it. It's a very mild drinking sour. I would call, that's why I'm calling it a wild beer. It's not like a lambic or something where it's got like a lot more sharpness and a lot more of an acetic acid character to it, where it's got like the real sharp sourness that hits you back here in the back of your throat. You get a little bit of that, but mostly on this one, it's got a surprising amount of sweetness left in it. It's very balanced. It's got a decent body on it. Kind of a medium light body. What the ABV on this is, have no damn idea, because I didn't really write down all that. I'm guessing it's probably somewhere in the high 4 or low to mid 5 range ABV. Don't get a lot of the oak on it, just a little bit. Talked with Dan ABA a long time ago about, you know, how many oak spirals to use, and I didn't want this one to be heavy oak. I wanted the fruit to come through on it more than anything else. He recommends using 2 oak spirals when you age them for 2 months with the fruit, if you really want the oak to show up. On this one I really didn't, so I did 1 oak spiral, and it didn't show up that much, which is kind of what I wanted. Very nice drinking beer. As it warms up, it's still pretty cold right now, but as it warms up, because I've had this quite a bit here in the last few weeks since I kegged it, the Brett does come through a little bit more, and the oak comes through a little bit more as it warms up. As it's cold, it's more muted. I've sent a couple of these out. DJ Bowman got one. I'm going to wind up sending one to Travis and to Dan both. I've got my bread experiment beers that I was talking about earlier where I did the bread ale. Gonna send that to those guys. I kind of wanted just to sit on them to see if they're going to carb up, because I let those things sit for almost a year on the Brett before I bottled them. So I'm going to make sure that they carb up in the bottle before I send them out, because I don't want to send those guys flat beers. If they don't, we'll figure something out. We'll pitch some wine yeast in it and a little bit more sugar, and then let them sit and see how they do. That project's been dragging on for a while. Sorry, Dan. Apologize. I don't know if Travis has got his stuff bottled up yet or not. Hopefully he does, and we can get on with that sometime here in the next few months. Really makes your mouth water when you drink this beer, though. It does not come across super bone dry, even though it is a 1004 terminal gravity. Still comes across pretty sweet. That's pretty much it. That's the highlights of this beer. I'm gonna let some of the other beer reviewers, maybe Dan and Travis, will talk about it a little bit. Is it mind blowing? No. I mean, it's a great beer that I made out of leftover beer off a bottle drag. So I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I had nothing in it at all, other than just tying up a carboy for a year and the fruit, the money I spent on getting the fruit in it, which that was kind of pricey, but luckily it turned out good, and I'm happy with it. To be my very first keg wild beer, I'm very happy with the way it turned out. To be honest with you, I think it's probably as good as half the other ones. It's better than half the other sour beers I've had commercially. There are other ones I've had that were way better than this for various different reasons, but to be a bottle drag beer made out of leftover beer that I didn't want to drink, I'm real happy with the way it turned out. So I'm working on it. The keg will be emptied out pretty soon. I've got 1 wild ale draft line now out of my 3, so I've got 3 other big batches of 5-6 gallon batches of wild ale that I'm going to be fruiting and kegging, and we'll see how they turn out. And if they turn out as good as this one does, I'll be really happy. And one of the good things about doing these wild beers, even if it's just something that you're doing as a, you got different levels of investment in it. And basically the biggest one is your time to have these things sitting around. And if you've got leftover beer that, ordinarily you would either just be throwing it away or whatever, this is a great way to get rid of it and turn it into something different and enjoy it. If you're not interested in doing that, then, I totally understand. Sour beers and wild beers are not for everybody. And they take a while for them to grow on you usually. And a lot of them you try suck. But anyway, I want to wrap this up. I'm going to enjoy drinking the rest of this one. And I'll see you guys later on. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. Cheers.